Okay, so welcome. Tonight we're going to be looking closely at what I would like to think is a playbook or part of a playbook of possibilities. In our office, most recently, we've talked about several different things. And actually, I was reviewing some of the classes we've done over the last year and a half in the company since I kind of arrived from Oregon. And we talked about a lot of different playbooks. We've looked at for sale by owners. As a matter of fact, we just did that last Friday. And done that before. Renters to buyers. We've looked at Zencasa as a source for being able to do more business in a different way than other real estate agents in our Dallas area are doing. We can do business working with divorce attorneys, with divorces, probate, foreclosure, short sales, door knocking. There's all kinds of possibilities. And that's what's so great about our business. You can kind of pick those things. And I suggest you pick at least three different venues, if you will, or playbooks for you to conduct your business. What you'll see tonight is how one real estate agent conducts his business and to talk a little bit about how he does it. So I'm going to share my screen with you if everything manages to work correctly. And let's make sure it's going to. And let me bring this down. And let me do one other thing here. Okay, are you able to see my screen that says Tom Ferry at the top? Lead generation? Great, then thank goodness we're doing good. Let me just see if I can do one thing here. I'm going to back up. Okay, so tonight we're looking at an agent's playbook, and I just want to talk a little bit, and I will in more detail, about Tim Dominick from Baltimore, Maryland. And this is his 2022 report. Tim is a student of Tom Ferry, of which I was for a number of years. And Tom Ferry publishes these lead generation playbooks, if you will. And this was one that was shared with me and really impressed me because in this playbook, while it's not exactly what I did and it would do, it's another approach that I wanted to introduce you to. So you have the opportunity to use a lead generation system like Tim Dominick if you choose to. Now, Tim Dominick is a student of, as I said, of Tom Ferry. And Tim Dominick, as you will see, uses some tools in his business where he spends money to get more business. So he uses the tools to build his business and do even more. It costs money, but we're going to talk about those. So let's first look at what we're going to be talking about tonight. On the left-hand side of the screen, he calls his expireds program a Relentless Prospecting Days program, where he is relentless, obviously, about prospecting. And I would fully agree. Those of you that know me and what we talked about in our KDNA prospecting task that we set up for you and so forth, that it really takes relentless prospecting to be successful in this business. You can't just kind of play in the business if you want to be as successful as somebody like Tim Dominick. And so here is a table of contents. We're going to be looking at his numbers, why expireds, his backstory, a little bit about him, his approach, the lead distribution, mindset, because mindset is so important, his work ethic, his toolkit, and three things you can do right now. And so Tim on coaching. So of course, Tom Ferry would want him to talk about coaching. So here's what you can see about Tim. In 2021, he did 50 transactions, about $7 million worth of business. His GCI, or gross commission income, was $206,000. Now, in January to July, so far that we have the records for of last year, for that first 6-month period, he did 42 transactions. And that's as far as an update as we have. But so you can see in the first 6 months of 2022, he almost duplicated what he did in all of 2021. And actually, his volume was more than it was in the 6 months than it was for the entire year of 2021, with a gross commission income of $190,000. Not bad numbers. I think any of us would be really, really happy with that. So here are the numbers. The percent of his business that he does from expireds is 50%. Now, my personal opinion and what I was actually coached to do was to have 3 or 4 different programs to work from. As I said, FSBOs, expireds, doors, whatever it is, to find 3 or 4 methods of prospecting and earning income. So for Tim, 50% of it came from expireds. He found the calls to a contact was 14.2 calls an hour. So Tim uses a system so he can make more calls quickly. So 48 to 62. Get this, everyone, so you have an understanding of what it takes to do these numbers. He makes around 50,000 calls a year. Pretty incredible. It's stunning. But he has a power dialer system that does the calls quickly, proficiently, and from the companies that supply him leads for his expired program, so he can move right through them. Now, I want you to think about this as well, because he's in Baltimore, Maryland. It's a pretty big place, but it could be very much like Dallas or the Dallas Metroplex. So contacts to an appointment, about 6.5 to 12. That's a pretty high number, that 6.5 to 12 contacts will yield an appointment. You know, it's much the same as what I talked about last Friday with FSBOs. The number of calls you make to an appointment can be very high yields for that, and even more so with FSBOs. His monthly investment is $349 a month on Vulcan 7. Now, there's a couple lead generation companies. I just want you to write them down. I'm not suggesting you spend the money to use them with expireds. There is another way. I am just showing you one way, and Tim Dominick's method of how he does his business. I'm not in agreement with it 100%, but obviously his system works. So he spends $349 a month on Vulcan 7. And he also uses another one called Mojo, which we'll probably see in a minute, plus $100. And I'm guessing the $100 is for incidental costs that he has. So think about this. If this is something that you might want to do, Vulcan 7 is the lead source that will provide you with a list of all the expireds that happen in DFW. You can name the area by zip code and so forth. But if you want to get all those, they will come to you. You pay for the company to provide them to you. That's one way of doing it. You can also do it onesie and twosie, kind of like I did. I picked out the expireds from the MLS that I wanted to contact. I simply went to the MLS and I found those properties that expired with any time frame. I could do it for those that expired yesterday, last week, last month, last year, or for the last several years of properties that have expired. And I can do it by hand, I guess you would say. I can do it onesies, one at a time, where I look through the list and then I will size up what I download from those expireds, for instance, of last week, and then decide who am I going to call and how am I going to do it, or how am I going to contact them. The total hours of prospecting a week is 18 or 900 hours per year. So he's pretty committed. And he has a time blocking method of doing this where his week and these prospecting hours are decided for him for the week. This is what he knows he needs to do to get to the kind of GCI that he had for the first 6 months of last year, $190,000. His hourly earning, as he's figured it, is about $245 per prospecting hour. And that's pretty darn high. You have to decide, what do you think your value is? How do you look at your time? Do you look at your time as a per hour employee of minimum wage? Do you think your abilities are much higher than that kind of earning per hour? A lot of the coaches I've worked with, and I've worked with several over the last 30 years, shoot for $250 because you have vast knowledge that other people don't have. You have training, you're licensed, and you need to look at your value at something that is what you would expect to earn. I'm certain you didn't get into the business to earn, $25 an hour. That's not why you got into the business. So Tim discovered that in one of the hottest markets ever, agents were putting unrealistic prices on homes. Now, these are things that you should write down because it's the same everywhere. Number one, agents were putting unrealistic prices on homes. They were telling sellers what they wanted to hear. They were not preparing the homes for showings. They weren't educating the sellers on how they needed to prepare the property to show, prepare the property for showings, and barely putting any effort into marketing. The consequence I found years ago when I used my method, was there's a lot of expired listings out there. A lot of times just because of these reasons. A lot of agents will make big promises. They'll tell the seller they can get a big price for it, but they don't do the work. The joke is that a lot of agents will put it on the MLS, they'll stick a sign in the yard, and then they'll wait for a buyer. And I can tell you, a few years ago, that worked. I mean, when we were in a market that was just going crazy, the minute you put a property on the market, you would have an offer, and you would likely have multiple offers, and likely they were going well over list price. That's changed. The current market in the last year and a half has changed. So the consequences are that there's a lot of expired listings out there. So here's a backstory of Tim. Before real estate, Tim was like us. He built bicycles. He wasn't a rocket scientist. He didn't have a lot of school. He wasn't an attorney. He was just a guy that built bicycles. So when he entered real estate with a limited sphere to call on, he took stock in his greatest virtue, his ability to work hard. And I can tell all of you, you need to work hard in order to be successful in the business. In order to build from the ground up, Tim dove into the challenge of calling expireds for all of you. Part of what you need to decide to do is, what is it that you're willing to dive into to try to see how it works, and then to accept the challenge and to move forward. So he called expireds. Today, he's built, as you can see, read here, a great track record, expanded his network, and successfully rebranded himself as one of the most reliable, knowledgeable, and hardworking agents in the market. So what is his approach? Well, here's the playbook. As I mentioned, Tim uses Falcon 7 and Mojo, both of which you can search. You can find out more information on both of these companies. You can talk to their representatives, but please, before you buy anything, please talk to me first, okay? But this is what he did. He uses Vulcan 7 and Mojo and uses an auto dialer. He knows the rules in his state, and you need to know the rules in your state for how you can dial. All leads immediately receive an automated email using Vulcan 7. So part of Vulcan 7 is for you to be different than agents who are going to just do onesies and twosies. It's a very automated and serious prospecting tool. He also has a CRM, a contact management system. I know that a number of our agents use different tools. Some people might use the Boomtown. They might use something else, but there's a number of contact management systems. I use one inside the Exit corporate site, and so that works for me. I also used to work with Follow Up Boss. Now remember, using a contact management system has a cost to it, unless you use Boomtown, and that's provided to you at no cost for being part of Exit, okay? Or Exit Realty Elite. So here's the lead distribution and follow-up. And he segments his leads as follows. He'll divide them into hot and warm, and then he'll set them up on a seller nurture. And this is how he does it. If they're hot, when he talks to them, looking to list within 30 days, he'll follow up daily. If they're warm, they may list within 30 days to 6 months. He'll follow up weekly. And you can set these parameters, by the way, on your contact management system. Seller nurture anything longer than 6 months. Notes in the CRM, trigger alerts at intervals depending on what the lead has said. So if the lead says, I'm really not interested in selling any longer, maybe when my wife and I retire. Well, when would that be? Well, we're not retiring for 2 years. That would go in the seller nurture. Okay. And these are the same kind of segments that you might to implement in your business, working with hot clients, warm, and seller nurtures. So KB Core automates his emailing that includes a monthly marketing report, a monthly home evaluation, a weekly email, which goes out to his entire database. And the content includes homes he's recently listed. They could also be, they're not in his, homes that are recently listed in our company, a restaurant of the week, and any relevant news, probably real estate news. This is something from tonight and his playbook that you can put into your business regardless of what you're doing, providing the people that you want to work with a monthly marketing report, a monthly home evaluation. And there are systems where you can easily provide people in your list with monthly home evaluations. There's some very cool tools that aren't that expensive. I can help you with that and get the name of that company if you would like me to do that. There's some incredible things that you can do. Let's see if I can get this back because I didn't mean to do that. Let me see if I'm going to mess the thing up. Lead it. Okay, let's see. That's where I want to go. Okay, so this is the mindset. Tim is a former boxer, so this says he knows a thing or two about taking punches. And one of the most important aspects of cold calling is staying motivated, sharp, and fluid. And it's being able to take the punches. I just talked to Lahoma today, and I talked to Michael about being able to take the punches because not everybody's going to respond to you in the way that you would like for them to respond to you. But it doesn't mean that they're angry with you or they don't like you. Everybody just has their own agenda and their own way. We're looking for people in this system who have had their property listed that didn't sell. And we have to provide them with convincing evidence that we will be able to sell it this time. To stay on top of his game, he goes to the gym 5 days a week. So with his mindset, physical fitness is very important to him. He watches Tom Mindset Monday, Tom Ferry's system, a little plug, I think, here for Tom Ferry. And one of his favorite lines from Tom is, no one cares if you're tired. No one cares if you're uncomfortable. Tim says, I have 4 children to support, so it would be selfish for me to say I'm uncomfortable with something I have to do. I think part of this is discovering your why and why you are doing what you're doing. I mean, a real close look at why you are in the real estate business, to really understand why. I'm presuming it's to help people and to be able to make a living. But you have to find out, so what's important about the why and what are the results you're looking for? And then implementing a plan that will help you get to that. So he calls, blocks time. Remember time blocking. I talk about time blocking so much that you must all be getting so tired of hearing me mention time blocking, but it's so important. He's calling his prospects from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. And then he calls follow-ups from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. That's 4 hours on the phone every single day. But Tim gets 1 appointment a day for his hard work. 1 appointment a day. Think how that would change your life. And, you know, we actually talked about this a little on Friday when we did the FSBO presentation, because I believe you can get an appointment every single day if you have a solid for sale by owner script and plan to work them. So here's his toolkit, and I will save this presentation to our private Facebook page, but I think this is pretty interesting here. It's all based on permission-based introduction. So here's what he says when he calls somebody that's an expired. Hey, Bob, my name is Tim Dominick with Sampson Properties. Thank you for taking my call. I'm sure this call is a total interruption to your day. Bob, would it be okay to steal 27 seconds from you to share with you why I'm calling? And from there, you can decide if we should continue or not. Now, listen, I can't argue with this script. I don't think you can either. This works for Tim Dominick. It works to where, you know, he in 2022, he did in his first 6 months, 42 transactions, $7 million plus of business, and a GCI of $190,000. So as you look at the script, is this something that might work for you? There are dozens of scripts we could talk about if you decide that doing expireds, calling expireds, having an expired program is something you want to jump into. This is just one script. Here's a direct introduction that he uses. Hey, Bob, this is Tim Dominick with Sampson Properties. Just giving you a quick call. I see that your home at 123 Main Street came off the market. Did you sell or do you still have it? The response, Bob, the reason why I'm reaching out now is to see what your plans are for interviewing the right agent for the job of actually getting the home sold. So the main introduction, and then to follow up that. Do you still have it? Well, yes, I still have it. Well, Bob, the reason why I'm reaching out right now, okay? So this is what he uses. And his close is, Bob, I specialize in selling properties other agents failed to sell. And I'm just curious, would it be okay for me to pop by the property one day this week and possibly share my thoughts with you on why I think the property did not sell? And also to potentially share a plan that will cause the property to sell. Does that sound fair to you? Now, I always put in times of day. You know, would it be possible to drop in one day this week and possibly share with you would Tuesday between the hours of 2 and 4 work for you, or would Wednesday be better? Okay, so here's 3 scripts that you can use for his expired program. Here's his time blocking chart. Yeah, I think you can kind of see it here. I'm trying to expand my screen, but unable to. So you can see what he does from 12, and then it has his whole day. You know, his bedtime, 12 a.m. When he gets up, his workout, getting ready for work. And as we talked about, the number of hours that he works, this is just part of his time blocking calendar. So his daily checklist, let me see if I'm able to. I don't think I am. I don't know why. Hopefully you're going to be able to press your eyes against the screen and be able to see this. So here's what he does, and we'll talk about it very quickly. He finds that exercise is important. He listens to 20 minutes of real estate podcasts. It's something that I love doing. When I'm in the bathroom in the mornings, I don't want to listen to crazy music. I don't care about the news at that particular time of day. So I listen to a podcast. I listen to Tom Ferry. I can give you 4 or 5 different podcasts and have done that I would suggest that actually feeds your brain information that you can use that day and in your business. He puts a property on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. I don't think that technique's used very much here, but that's what he does. He'll post a property on Facebook. And by the way, you can post any number of properties on Facebook. If you could choose to list properties within our office with the listing agent's permission, I do it quite often, where I'll say to Boo Reitz, for example, Boo, can I share your listing as a buyer's agent? And in that post, I will give Boo full credit for being the agent who listed the property, but I market myself as the agent that buyers could reach out to in order to look at the property. So you can do those all the time. He'll text 20 old buyers seller leads, and he says this will help you bring new opportunities from old leads. If you don't have old leads, skip it. You're not going to be able to do that. Next, he organizes his leads, and it helps with his efficiency. He makes a minimum of 20 to 30 new outbound contacts. This is what he does on a daily basis. He'll make a minimum of 20 to 30 outbound contacts. He'll call at least 5 for sale by owners. This is all mixed in with his daily. And so FSBOs is important to him, right? And reaching out and adding new clients to his contact management system, to his database, is important to him. And marketing, like he does on Facebook and elsewhere, is important to him. He'll add 5 prospects to a market report, CRM, or listing announcement. Okay, so we talked about that in our office and actually had a couple classes on doing an unsolicited CMA. And by the way, Tony is on the call this evening, and I posted Tony's link to the CMA he recently did for a client, and it's awesome. It's totally awesome. If you want to know how to do it, what it should look like, look at what Tony did with his CMA. I'm so proud of him. It's just awesome. And he will add at least 10 emails to his contact management system every single day. So you can tell by this guy's working. He's not out playing. He's got a job. His job is to help people sell their properties, to buy properties, and he's a full-time agent. Here's his weekly checklist. I hope you can see it. He'll schedule an open house. He'll call 10 FSBOs, 10 RBOs. He'll write handwritten notes, 5 handwritten notes. He'll create 2 videos. I mean, this plan it's all set up for you. You only have to copy what he's doing. Spends a minimum of 30 minutes thinking about my business. How often do we stop, turn everything off, and think about our business and how our business is working? That's part of what KDNA is for, to be able to track your business, to be able to look in it and be able to think about things you can do to be better. He'll work on his listing presentation. Every week, he works on his listing presentation. He'll track his numbers. He'll track profits and losses. And something that agents fail to do miserably, including myself when I started, was keeping track of the money. really being able to track it. He'll check over bank statements. I never did that, and accounts. And he'll check on all listings, pendings, and coming soons. This guy's complete. I mean, he has a system built so he can maximize his time and maximize his income. So here's 3 things that you can do right now. You can choose the most sustainable technology and use automation features. You can use email templates provided for you if they're suitable. Otherwise, craft your own. I can show you how to craft your own, and mine is a little bit different than this. Make sure this content is going out on a regular basis. Number 2, make sure you're taking care of yourself. Daily exercise for him. Set a time to go to bed, and as one can never state it often enough, have a powerful morning routine. And 3, establish a schedule that works for you. Not all of us are able to work the same hours. Some of us have part-time jobs. Some of us have other things we do in our life as well. So it has to be what works for you. And Tim commenting on coaching, it comes down to one word. And you've all heard me say this, and you've heard Paul say it. It is said all the time. If it squeaked past you, I don't know how. The word accountability. So he says, my coach is almost like a second dad. He doesn't let me get away with anything, and that's the way I like it. I feel like in this business, if you don't have someone watching you, you will steer clear of things that cause you pain, right? It's easy not to make a call today. It's easy. But if you have an accountability partner, someone that says, why didn't you make the call today? I'm curious, and how can I help you make the call? I did that today, right? And so if it causes you pain, and then that's why I have to have someone watching me. That's part of what KDNA is all about. KDNA is all about accountability, and for you to be able to track what you're doing in your business so you can have more success. So tonight we looked at a playbook of possibilities. Just one playbook from Tim Dominick from Baltimore, Maryland, who's had great success with it. I would suggest that you think about what you're willing to do, your why, and how could you expand on what he's doing to make it work in your business. I'll just briefly tell you about what I did, and it was my primary purpose when I started the business. I knew, and for some of you this is repetitious, I knew that I had to sell, based on the market where I was, 12 properties a year. Knowing what the average price of a property was, I knew that I had to sell 12 a year based on a 3% commission schedule and a 70% pay from the brokerage. So I knew that's what I needed to do. And so my plan that I built with expireds was that every single day I would get up, and at 7 o'clock I would be at work. I wouldn't be at home because there's too many distractions at home for me. I went into work. I got on the MLS. I searched the area where I wanted to work, the homes, neighborhoods where I felt most comfortable. Sometimes getting out of the comfortable thing is best for you, but there were enough expireds that I chose looking for homes that I was comfortable with. So I would go to the MLS. I would search for all the expireds for that day that had gone into the MLS as of 7 a.m. I would look down the list, and I would choose based on the prices, the days on market, and the addresses, which ones I wanted to work. And I would choose 3 every single day, just 3. I would choose 3. And I made sure I did a quick market analysis of each of the 3. If a property was listed for $900,000, but the CMA, the quick CMA, which you can do on the MLS, showed it the value is really more like 600, I chose not to call them just because I didn't want to face pain. And it's easier not to face pain. I'd be more likely to call somebody that is closer to a realistic number. I'm not looking for any fights. I'm looking to be able to help somebody, but I don't want to fight for it. I don't want to get bloodied trying to help somebody that won't listen, or more than likely was given the wrong information by another real estate agent who wanted the listing so badly, he or she told them exactly what they wanted to hear. If I called you and you have a $500,000 property, and I told you I think I could get $900,000 and could able to fast talk my way to it, would you not maybe listen? There's a lot of people that will fall for that routine. And of course, the property would never sell for $900,000. Okay, so I would choose 3 to go to. For me, I would get in my car and I would go to the 3. Now remember, I did it in a specified area that was close to where I was, so I didn't have to spend an hour driving and an hour driving back from each one. And I went to the doors. I would go to the doors of the expired, and I have a script for that that worked wonderfully if they weren't home. If they weren't home, I went back to work. I was back to work by noon, finished my day at work by 5 o'clock, and at 5 o'clock, I went back to the 3. If I hadn't talked to them, I went back because I knew there'd be a better chance they're probably working, maybe husband and wife, whatever, significant other, and I knew I had a chance to talk to somebody. So I knew that I was going to be done with my work at 5, and I was going to have to probably work till 7 to be able to get to 3, to get to all 3. My goal was to do 15 a week. That's 60 a month. That's 720 contacts of expireds a year. Now, at that time, there were plenty of expireds. There's a smaller number now because the market has smaller numbers. It's not feeding as many expired listings as there were when I was doing the program. Nevertheless, it shouldn't stop you from building your plan. I knew if I did 720 a year, unless I'm really bad, unless I'm just absolutely awful, that I would be able to list 12 of the properties and sell them, because I knew I was going to list them at the right price. I only took the properties that were in a location that I knew I would be able to find a buyer, or fairly confident, and I went with that program. Remember, 720 contacts. My goal was to close 12 transactions, because I knew if I did 12, at that time, I would make enough money that anything else, if I wanted to do any other programs, I could, and it's icing on the cake. So if you think that might be something that you're interested in doing, I can show you how to do it. I'm not sure the expired numbers are, again, what they were when I did it, but we can find expireds. Jerry, have you done expireds at all, or do you do, I'm just curious, a regular search of expireds, and what are you finding with expireds?
Yeah, I do a regular search. It's hit or miss depending on the week. Most of them you'll find, the majority of them at the end of the month or the first part of the month, like the first week of the month, first day of the month. But yeah, I do a regular search in my general area.
Okay.
You can do a bubble 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 10 miles from where you're at, wherever you place your pin at,
Yep.
and just look them up from there.
Okay. How many, just a number, a guesstimate, how many do you think in your area come up expired every week? What would you say? Is it 5 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30? What would you just guess?
Probably 5 to 10, somewhere in that range. Sometimes
Okay.
less.
So the numbers aren't what they used to be. So if you have that area and it's 5 to 10, obviously you have less to work with, right? And doing a solid expired program like Tim Dominick is doing may not be something that's possible. Although if you used his system, it would be likely it'd be possible. I'd be curious, because this report, unfortunately, only goes the first 6 months of 2022. And the poop hit the fan in 2022 with the real estate market. And so I think there's probably, because there's so few listings, there's probably fewer expireds. So I don't have the updated report, but there are expireds, and Jerry searches those. That's part of Jerry's business. And I would suggest it might be part of yours as well. So I've covered a lot, but I didn't want to be here for an hour just doing this. I wanted to give you the playbook that Tim Dominick uses. I wanted to offer it to you as a way for you to learn more about how other people are doing a business. We learn from others. And for you to take from it what you want, and you may not want anything from it. You may say, this is not me. It's not anything I want to do. And that's okay. What I'm trying to do, to the best of my ability, is to introduce ways that you can make money in this business. Because I know if you find the thing where you can make a living doing the business, you're not going to be one of the 87% that in the first 5 years quits the business because they can't make a living doing it. And that's most agents, 87% of them. I want you to be the 13% that does do it. And by introducing to you ideas from others, I think does it. And you can take from it what you think will benefit you. Okay? What questions might you have? Any questions? Michael, you have anything?
No, I remember when I first was looking for expireds in Grapevine, there was not many at all.
How many would you say? Did you do it long enough
That were
to be
actually callable, that weren't already using realtors or something like that, or
well,
have some sort of
that's
weird thing
FSBOs.
going?
That's FSBOs. But so when something is expired that had been on the market, did you try calling the actually expired? Once people raised their hand and said, we want to sell, but it expired.
Yeah,
You did.
I try to go to their doors.
Okay. So what I think I could tell you, if you're going to go to the doors, you better have a solid script, and you better be able to have the right words that they'll open a door for you, or at least give you the opportunity to present to them. One of the things I did, I don't think I have it here. Let me just look around my desk. I don't see it. I don't see it. I actually have told some of you this. I would go to the door and say, knock the door. They would answer. I would say, good morning, I'm Jim Mazziotti from Exit Realty. Are you aware that your property expired last night at midnight? And most people would look at me like a deer in headlights, like, what are you talking about? No one told me it had expired. I listed with Charlie Jones, and why wouldn't he? When I would tell them that, you could tell that they were openly upset and angry, not at me. They're upset and angry that the property expired and no one bothered to call them, because in many cases, agents won't bother to call them. One of the hardest calls to make, by the way, if you're a listing agent, is calling people to let them know that their property is going to expire in 15 days or what. It's a worse call to make, because it's an admission that you haven't been successful and you put everything on you. So I would just say, are you aware that your property expired this morning? And most people would say, no, I wasn't aware. And so I would play the part where I'm surprised that they didn't know. I'd say, oh, I'm so sorry. Are you saying that your listing agent hasn't contacted you to let you know that your property expired? So I put doubt about the other agent in their mind without saying, your agent's a dirty, rotten dog for not doing the job that you hired him to do. I wouldn't say it. I would just imply it that, did your agent not tell you your property had expired? And they'd say, no one called me. And I would say, well, that's not how I would ever work when I'm working with a client. I would take my wristwatch off and I would hand it to them, as I would be saying, if I could show you in just 20 minutes how I believe I could sell your property within the next 30 days, is that something that would be worth a conversation this morning? Some people would take my watch, others wouldn't. But if they did, it's kind of like they open the door to you. When people take something from you, there's a reflex that they need to give something back. It's just a reflex we all have. If you know how you feel when you get a Christmas present, but you didn't buy a Christmas present. Jerry, when I gave you that Christmas present this last Christmas and you didn't have one for me, how did you feel about that, right? You don't feel good about it. You feel like I should have gotten one for Jim as well. And it's the same thought. I'm joking, of course, but it's the same thing. When someone hands something to you and you take it, there's a whole mental process that says, well, since I took this, I need to do this. Now, some people wouldn't take it. Some people would, no, thank you. I'm not interested. And so you have to take, depending on the client, the call, the listing, the location, the signage, whatever it might be, you have to take it from that point. But I found huge success. And remember, I did 15 a week. I only needed 12 listings a year that I knew would sell, just 12. And I think for you, I mean, we could put a calculator to this. You know, if the average price of a home in your area is $500,000, you know the gross is going to be $15,000, and you know the net to you might be, I'm guessing here, around $11,000, and you know that if I'm going to end up with $11,000 from a transaction on this average in this area, I need to sell X amount of properties. Well, you need to sell 10 to make $100,000, right? I mean, it's pretty easy to figure out. And if that is what I always ask, how much do you have to make a year? You're in the business, tell me what you have to make, how much do you want to make? And you can determine that. If you want to make $100,000, well, maybe you're going to need to make more calls, or maybe you're going to need to do an expired program and a FSBO program. And maybe you're going to need to knock doors, or maybe you're going to need to talk to divorce attorneys and line up doing work. Or maybe you're going to have to become specialized in probate business or short sale business. There's a number of ways we can go in this business. And that's what's so fantastic about this business. It's just not one thing. It's not buyers. It's not just sellers. It's all of this that we can do. And with Exit, it can also include sponsoring, which is a huge, huge part of our company. And it can also be referral business. So I don't want to go much longer because I promised, I think it's a couple of you, that it would be 45 minutes long, and I've already gone past that. Anything quickly I can answer for you? Does this sound worth looking into or not? How many have an interest in maybe looking deeper into this? Any of you? Yes, no, I don't care. But if you are, I want to help you. And all you have to do is reach out to me and say, okay, I want to know how you did yours. I told you how Tim Dominick did his. And so you've seen his plan. I'll show you my playbook for what it's worth, and know that it worked really well for me, and it's worked well for the agents that I worked with in my own office for 15 years. So any last questions anyone has, or any thoughts, comments? Good, bad, worth your time, not worth the
I think
time?
Tim Dominick should pick a new market. His average price for a home is 140,000.
Well,
He can be making a lot of money.
Yeah. But the thing is, he's in the market where he's in, Michael. The market that when I moved from Iowa to Oregon, my market, the average sale price was $50,000. $50,000. It's now about double that. It's $100,000. I couldn't make a living. I knew what I wanted to make, and the only way I could make a living was to hop over to a different market. And so that's why I went where I went. Some people don't have the flexibility to get up and move. But I get what you're saying. But that's the market that he's in. And there's a lot of markets like that around the country. But many times it's all relative to where you live. Maybe $125,000, is the right thing for him, whatever it might be. So, okay, you guys, anything else? John Ward is wanting to enter the room, and John Ward is actually in Vegas. So he's screwed up on his time. So I'll get to him later, but I'm going to let you guys go. And so I can contact John. All right. Thank you so much
All
for
right.
being here.
Thank you.
Please
Appreciate
Please
it.
reach out to me, okay, if I can help you. Thanks for being here.
Definitely.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Jeff.